Today is Terror Day in the U.S. It was the deadline U.S. President Donald Trump placed for tariffs to go in effect for countries that didn't remove the extra tariffs on the U.S. This has the equity markets and crypto markets in complete turmoil, and prices have kept going lower. Has that introduced a lot of uncertainty into the market? Now, we'll take a look at price action in stocks or equities, and then in the crypto market to see if this looks long-term bearish or just short-term pain. If it's short-term pain, this is often the most amazing buying opportunity. So today we'll be joined by Paul. We missed last week because I was really sick, and so first show in 2 weeks, and I hope you're excited. We'll also look at the macro factors affecting money flows in and out of crypto. Welcome to the Crypto Rain channel and our family. Few like me came into crypto because you realize there's potential here for life-changing gains over a greater 4 to 8 year period. And you're looking for discussions on becoming a solid, unshakable, savage crypto investor. Much like a Navy SEAL of crypto investing, you're in the right place. Now, I was once new to the crypto space 8 years ago, and I didn't know at that time that you grow a huge YouTube channel by talking about things that were already high and being optimistic for why they'd go higher. And that grows a really big YouTube channel. So I didn't realize for at least the first year that incentives were all wrong for what I was listening to. I was hungry for analysis on cryptos that were underpriced and undervalued, and I didn't find that. So in 2020, I created that. We discussed crypto as an investment and discussed the most important things like the investment cycles related to crypto and even other markets. We speak on the specific projects and the pros and cons of those projects, the risks of the projects, and the guess the upside if it comes together well. Together, we created that. When I started this channel, I shared the problem that there is with the YouTube algorithm and asked you if you would join me to get big enough we could then have on guests from the top crypto projects we felt were undervalued. And we accomplished that. Now many of you are here after dollar cost averaging through the bear market, watching and waiting for this 2025 bull market, and it is going to be huge. So if you're looking up for deeper discussions, do join our private Patreon group that allows you access to our Rainmaker private Discord. This is where the best discussion and best info is. There are other benefits too, but you will have to join us to find out. Do you know I'm not a financial advisor? I'm a crypto investor myself. Paul, who is joining us, invests in many different markets. None of this is to be taken as financial advice. So make a ring on that like button and help me welcome Paul to the show.
Good to be here.
Yes.
I hope you're feeling better.
Yes, I am. I still have a little bit of residual cough, but last week I was dead to the world.
Yeah, there's been some nasty bugs going around. Yeah, so interesting times at the moment.
It has been interesting. Yeah, so I guess tariff day for the U.S. Oh my gosh, how are people reacting around the world with this? What is the sentiment you're hearing in the U.K.?
I'm hearing people panicking, really, and saying that there's going to be a crash and the market's crashing and Trump's making the market crash. And 2 weeks ago, I discussed this, that it felt like interest rates needed to go down and the Fed will probably use politically the fact that Trump is possibly putting pressure on them to lower interest rates, but he's kind of turning it back on them, or the Fed may be turning it back on him, saying that the numbers are looking bad and it's his fault. And, interest rates might need to go lower. I think they're expecting rates lower generally, but I think politically they're playing a bit of a game here. With regard to the tariffs, it does seem to be a bit of a blunt instrument, and a lot of it is in the price. So I'm guessing that the markets have possibly seen their worst because they've had plenty of time to factor all of this in, and the fear levels are pretty high. And if we look at the fear levels in relation to where the stock markets are and where Bitcoin is, they're making higher lows. Now, it doesn't guarantee that we've seen a reversal, but it's just when I get people talking about crashes and panics, and you also read it in the papers or online, saying the FTSE crashed today. It was like it was down 0.8%. It's like, is that really a crash? You know, it's not a crash. They haven't seen a crash. It's so that tells you the sort of sentiment. They're gunning for a story, and they're playing kind of to the crowds. They're playing to the gallery, and the gallery's expecting, you know, the markets to be turning down, and they're being very negative about these moves, which are normally a sign that we're approaching a low or potentially a low. It's not guaranteed, but I think there's a good probability that at the very least we consolidate. But there's some interestingly positive things coming out on the charts. So just thinking what we've got here, we've got a new quarter. We'll have non-farm payrolls on Friday and some other data, I think, around the corner. And the way yields are looking, which we can touch upon, it looks like yields are going lower. So, you know, I think because of even if the outlook was negative, the blunt instrument is rates will go down. And so rates going down means the stock market and risk on markets will like it. And also the dollar seems to be falling. So, or at least it's not going up. So the tariffs aren't making the dollar strengthen. I think that's the key to a lot of this. So so yeah, I think eventually it will come out in the wash, and the markets will work around it somehow. But it's on everybody's lips. So it's when something like this, a topic like this, takes too much of center stage, too much emotion. The market, I look for the most negative comments, or where the most comments skewed towards, and they seem to be skewed towards the downside. So now the market has to somehow confirm that on the downside, and if it doesn't, then it becomes the inverse. It becomes bullish.
Yeah, let's take a look at some of the things that you're looking at on your charts.
Yeah, so this is the chart of the Dow Jones. As I mentioned, we've had this sell-off here down to this low and a good rebound, and on this kind of fear from Friday, which followed through into Monday, the market is rebounding. So, and it's printing a higher low. So if we look at these lows, that is a higher low on what I think is more negative sentiment. So if we look at the Nasdaq, it looked a little bit more negative, but then it had moved up more than the Dow, so it potentially had a bit more of a correction. It's used the 200-day moving average as resistance, and it looks like maybe we'll get across to the downside. But this is a normal market correction. You know, it's been going up a long way, and we've had this before as well. So I don't think this is necessarily a trend ending signal. I think it's a consolidation before the market goes up. S&P, it's kind of in between, isn't it? So the Dow looks a little bit more bullish, the Nasdaq looks a bit bearish. S&P, because it's 500 stocks, it's kind of in the middle. But what's for sure is it broke this low, which would have been a technical sell signal, and it's charged straight back up. And I refer back to the sentiment. The sentiment being so negative makes me think that the market is using this as a buying opportunity. So I'm not saying it's shut your eyes and buy. I'm saying this is it looks more of a consolidation correction than a complete change in trend at this point. And it would be unusual if the market was really bearish and we were at the end of the bull market. You know, it doesn't sit right. So for me, this is more likely to be a consolidation before it moves higher. And in fact, it wouldn't surprise me if it just moves straight up and really, caught everybody out who's been short. And the market is still short. And to answer Chris's question about a wall of worry, yeah, I still think it is climbing a wall of worry because people are still shorting the market. And so it will continue to squeeze them out. So overall, the equity indices seem to be doing okay. They're just in a correction and absorbing very bearish information. And if we look at the 3-month and 6-month money, there's a big spike in here. That's not real. It's still trading. 3-month money is trading around 4.21%, hovering on this support level. I guess the question is, When will it break it? And if we look at 6-month money, that's still looking very heavy. 2-year has been going down. It's below 4%. 10-year is going down as well. That's below 4.2%. And 30-year money has also been falling as well. So 30-year money is interesting because in the short term, whatever's going on, you'd expect perhaps a bit of weakness in the economy or whatever. But for longer term money, you'd expect the correction once interest rates have gone down and they've kind of induced some inflation in the system. 30-year money, you'd expect yields to be rising and people wanting a premium. But that's not really the case here. It's kind of flat. So that makes me think that rates will be going down, or the market's anticipating some lower move in interest rates, which again is whether you think it's a bullish thing or not. It's almost like the bad news is good news, and that's how the market sees it. So any excuse for lower rates or anything that allows more risk on is treated as a positive thing. We've got the dollar, which had a very sharp move lower, and all the tariff talk certainly isn't helping the dollar. If that was the intention, if Trump wanted a stronger dollar, he's not going to get it. And if anything, it will probably encourage a weaker dollar as people perhaps stop tit for tat buying US products. They'll look for alternatives, or it'll make people look more domestically for things that that they can replace. And spats like this can end up very petty, and so people can, they become very jingoistic and patriotic towards their own country. And so I think there's been some of that happening in Canada. But in any case, either way, I don't really like politics. I don't really get into it. I don't look at it that much other than peripherally. But overall, the dollar looks like it's going to go lower. And for me, that's a good sign that risk on plays will still come into focus over the course of this year. So it had a little bounce here and it's starting to turn down again. So if it crosses through this 103.22 area, we could drop to 100 very quickly. And as we've said for a long time, this big area here, which is so clear and key on the charts, that when that goes, it's going to be a massive move. And this is beginning to play out like a really massive top. So, it could be a very interesting quarter. It could be a very interesting second half of this year as we start to gear up, and the short term worries, like lots of the other ones that we've seen before, fall by the wayside.
Yeah, it does seem like it's setting up for, especially on the dollar index, which we've been watching for a long time, that it looks like a top, right? So a bigger reversal is coming. And it would make sense with the bigger macro factors going on.
Yeah.
Anything else you're taking a look at? Chris asked if we could take a look at the price of gold.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, gold and copper, it's copper spiked up and still in an upward trend. I mean, it got a bit of profit taking because who wouldn't in the short term? But gold is still going. I mean, it's still in an upward trend, and again, it's one that's been on the radar. Hasn't shown a sign of a reversal. Silver as well. That looks like it's going to go some more. I mean, you might say that it's due a correction, and of course, it may be due a correction, but you could have said that all the way up. And so this is a classic example of what a trend is. It will go sharper, faster for longer than people expect. So there's probably a bit more buying of silver than gold because it looks cheaper, but gold is still outperforming. So that may well have much more to go. Now, I don't know whether that's linked to what we're talking about Fort Knox, whether it's linked to the tariffs, whether it's linked to the fact that the dollar's going down, or whether it's linked to worries about, in the UK, certainly, whether a Labour government is going to be bad for pensions and pension monies going into gold. I don't think it's enough to do that just for the UK, but certainly there's enough stories around that made people worried about gold. And gold miners have been moving higher as well. and commodities in general. So this is all part of a risk-on strategy, and so it's not surprising from that point of view. But not everything has moved up, to be fair. Silver, it has moved up a bit, but not as much. And platinum and palladium are still reluctant to move, which is, again, a little unusual, but still, there's still time for those to move and for those to catch up. But base metals have been moving higher, which for me is a very important underlying risk-on signal that implies that whatever we're hearing is not quite as bad as the market thinks.
Yeah, Chris is asking, are we climbing a wall of worry? You frequently say that markets climb a wall of worry. We're definitely been having a lot of worry lately. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, in both Bitcoin and it's normally applied to the stock market. And yeah, most people are still worried about the stock market. And that's a good sign. It means that it will probably keep going higher. So for the stock market, and now for Bitcoin and other risk on assets, and probably gold as well. I mean, climbing a wall of worry just means that the trend looks like it's going to stop. But it's traditionally applied to the stock market. And yeah, I definitely think we are still climbing a wall of worry. And the worry is very clearly there. As I say, the headlines about crashes and Trump's going to crash the market, and the Fed saying because Trump's not, there's a risk because of him, and that they may need to lower rates or be a little bit more dovish. It's definitely a worrying time, and you can feel it, everywhere, because you can see that there's been a correction, obviously, in Bitcoin, and you can see the correction in altcoins, but we're back to where we were. It feels like where we were when Bitcoin was trading around sort of the 60 to 70,000 range, and then everybody said that the trend was over and that was it. This was the top, and are you still bullish, and will it still go up, and all that stuff. If you remember that, it was like it was supposed to be over at that point, and then we got to move to 108,000. And of course, it's not sustainable to move up that fast and stay there. I mean, it could have gone further. I mean, I'm not saying it was 100% that it wouldn't go further, but this is what markets do. They correct, and then everybody thinks it's over. And the fear and greed index on crypto is still on fear, very much pinned to the lows, and it's actually come off the lows a bit. And it's interesting that Bitcoin is now moving up. So, and I'm not hearing anybody, saying, how do I get into Bitcoin or buy any cryptocurrencies? So there's a very good chance that a very good chance doesn't mean 100%, by the way, but a very good chance that we're not in a bear market.
Yeah. Let's take a look at Bitcoin, and then we'll get into some other cryptos, some interesting price action happening.
Yeah. So where is it now? So Bitcoin. So this is the low print that I was talking about. So you got this low print here at 76,000, and it's actually going up from this point. And even today, it's had quite a good move. And yeah, there's a lot of resistance at this 89. That was where the downside trigger and the volatility happened. But this trend is still up, so we shall see. But yeah, I think there's not much to say here other than we're in a consolidation and we're waiting for the next breakout point. But when the chart is sort of 50-50 like this, yeah, of course it could go lower. I mean, I'm not saying anything is necessarily guaranteed, but when the chart is like this and everybody is so negative, that for me twists things or pushes things into the more bullish argument. And so the first step would be, yeah, through this high and this resistance here at 89. If we get through there, then the shorts are going to be squeezed. But I'd be happy with a range at this point, given how worried people are, and I don't think it's unwarranted either. I mean, the market had a really good run, and it's had a correction, and now it's consolidating, and it can still have another really good run and that would be perfectly normal for a bull market.
Yeah, what I was thinking about Bitcoin, and I was looking at this is the Bitcoin Liquid Index. It goes way, way, way back to the beginning, and I put these trend lines on it. Generally, this is the trend that it follows. And I think of it like waves of the ocean, in that the waves don't repeat exactly the same. There's a lot of similarities, though. So this was the 2017 bull market. So it peaked out later December 2017, came back down. We had this really interesting, in the middle of a bear market, Bitcoin went all the way down to like 3,000. It went up to 14,000 and then back down to 3,800. This all caused by a Bitcoin Ponzi scheme out of India and China back then, like brought things way up in the middle of a bear market. And then things went up, and we had this early run in March. Then prices came all the way down. So Bitcoin went up to 65,000, came all the way down to 30,000, then all the way back up to 70,000, and then back down. And so the waves don't repeat exactly the same. So here we are. We haven't topped out. We're not even, haven't come very close to this green line. And so there's still bullishness ahead. Now, a lot of people are suspecting that we'll hit a super cycle this time. We'll see. We'll see. I'd give it maybe a 50% chance that we hit a super cycle. Just know in 2021, they said we'd hit a super cycle. In 2017, they said we'd hit a super cycle. And super cycle just means that the wave is much, much bigger than normal. And normal would be within these green lines. So we'll see if there is, with all this institutional buying, and if the US starts buying and then other countries follow with Bitcoin, it could drive Bitcoin outside of the normal 160 or so thousand that it would normally hit. And maybe it goes to a 500,000 or $600,000 Bitcoin. And if so, then crypto is going to go crazy in general. And you'll see so much rampant speculation. Trying to explain to some newer people yesterday about how prices, people chase green candles so much, and that if you think about it, when the prices were really cheap like this, at say 15,000, was the line to buy Bitcoin longer when prices are at 15,000, or when prices are say up at 108,000? And the truth is, the line's a lot longer at 108,000 because all of this recency bias. So prices have been going up like this. People think it's going to go up for forever, and they'll buy at much higher normals, going back to when Bitcoin went way, way down to like 3,800 here. People were scared, and there was a line to sell, but not a line to buy Bitcoin. And then when it topped out at 69, almost 70,000, there were tons of people FOMOing in and bottlenecks trying to buy Bitcoin at those prices. And so people actually act the opposite of what you would think they would do. That when prices are really cheap, they're not usually stockpiling. They're worried about whether they're going to sell or not. And when prices get really expensive, that's when people get really creative and try to buy. That's why so many people do so poorly in investments. All right, well, let's take a look at, on the schedule for us to look at today, is one that's a really interesting business study in the crypto space called EOS. And we'll take a look at some recent price action that went up, and we'll talk a little bit about EOS. Then we'll look at Immutable X, Jupiter, Injective, and then OMI. And then we're open to some viewer suggestions. We already got Senate to take a look at. James asked us to talk about the PENGU ETF. I hadn't heard that there's an ETF, but we'll talk about that. So let's first look over at EOS's price action.
So, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we did look at EOS a few weeks ago. I seem to remember it was a pick, and look, I can't remember what I said about it, but there's a very clear inverse head and shoulders here that would have triggered pretty much where the moving average is at 66 cents. And it has triggered, which is good. It's held support, which is really good. But this pattern, the size of the pattern reflects pretty much the target that you can go for. And it's near the top of that target. So what that means is, it doesn't mean, well, what it means is that, yes, the market could go further, but it's kind of it's hit its target point. So we have to look for something more to see if it's going to extend. And, I like the price action. It's moving ahead of other markets, which is really good. And one could say it's still a buy, or a buy as long as it's over 67 cents, as long as it doesn't close below there. And we could also draw in a new trend line. But there is a lot of supply up ahead as well. So I just want to be slightly cautious about that, because it's not a simple, clear run. We could get to $1, and then there's resistance. And then above that, we've got loads of resistance. So I would actually like to see it break through these levels, which you might think is a bit late, before looking for a very long-term buy, because these have denoted the turning points from as I say, from a long-term perspective. And if it breaks through that, it's telling me that something's changed from a long-term perspective and it's moving into a new bull market. But certainly from the short-term perspective, it's doing very well, and you can't deny that. And it's got to build from somewhere. So we'll see whether this is something that's just news driven, whether it's just short-term, relatively quickly. But for the moment, I'm going to say for me, it's a buy, and my stop point would be a break below this trend line. And we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah, I'm not certain what's caused the recent spike on its price. It's interesting that it's doing what it's doing. Here is EOS on CoinMarketCap, and they're at a $1.27 billion market cap. Now, what's interesting about this is one of the former founders of Ethereum co-founded this project. And they did this really interesting 1 year, or like over a year long raise, and they raised $3 billion in capital for this. And they were going to design a better blockchain, essentially, but they haven't really done much with the capital that they raised. Now, you could say it's because the US SEC went after them. Block One, who is the creator of EOS, settles with the SEC. Was a slap on the wrist. Did EOS get a pass from the feds? Essentially, they paid this small $24 million fine compared to they raised $4 billion. However, they raised $4 billion, and what have they done with it? I don't know. EOS isn't integrated into hardly anything. I don't know that the founding team is really even still working on it. And when you're holding a cryptocurrency, like, it's risky because you don't own a piece of stock in the company. And if you did own a piece of stock in the company, like, sometimes founders raise a whole bunch of money, and for them, they then get all this money and they live off of it. And they use it to increase their lifestyle and other things, and they don't really build what it was you were hoping you'd fund. And EOS raised $4 billion, and the reason its market structure looks like this is, what have they really done with it? Not really anything. So during the bull market of 2021, they did go up some, and so from the bear market lows of like $2.50, they went up to about $10, so they did about a 4x. And then they've just declined because they're not integrated into anything. They haven't been successful in really rolling things forward. And so they raised $4 billion. And I know some people that participated in their fundraise. I didn't. EOS didn't make sense to me even back then with how much they were raising. But yeah, I mean, sometimes projects that you have, you believe in the founder, you believe in their vision. Because I know one guy that super believed in their founders and the vision and what they were saying. And once they raised all that money, they really didn't do much with it. And that's one of the risks of not only when you're an early stage investor in businesses, even if you're holding equity in a company, but especially in crypto where you're just holding a token, which is even less tangible than a piece of the company itself. So EOS was interesting. I don't know what's caused this raise. This price action recently is really interesting. Look at that climb. I mean, yeah, sometimes just because they stay around, they don't really die. And sometimes you can literally just trade the price action, which isn't really what I do. I'm more of a fundamental investor. But like you said, inverse head and shoulders. Yeah, really curious. All right, let's take a look at Immutable X.
Yeah, sorry, was yours a buy or sell? I don't know what you were.
For me, it'd be a sell.
Mhm.
I don't like EOS fundamentally, and so even with the price action is interesting. Maybe the price action is going to continue up, and I don't know what's driving that. I don't know that they're getting enough traction to be integrated. So many long-term partnerships are being established for who is integrating with who and stuff. They've just missed, I think, all their important things for them to become relevant for the future. I think they're an inevitably dead project, in my opinion.
Mm. Okay. Yeah, interesting. So Immutable X. So what we have here from the December high, we've continued down. It's broken support at $1, and it went through it quite sharply. Bit of a hard sell-off and then rebound in Feb, but not enough to hold it. And again, we've seen a rebound recently into March, but it's just not sticking. So this all looks like, as you know, lower highs and lower lows, which is a downward trend. Now it's slowed up a little bit around this major support area, which is good. We've got a zone of support at 0.46 going down to the low of the chart 0.38. So I think what we're seeing is some buys coming in there because you've just got major support, but it's not enough for me at this stage, even though I can see why technically people might be stepping in and going for these support points. I want to see more evidence in the short term that we've seen a base, and one of those signals would be to break a recent significant high, and the most recent significant high comes in at 75 cents. So yeah, massive percentage move to do that. But if you look at the chart, its significance is that it's trying to end this downward trend, which is what I want to see. And then we could be talking about $1 or maybe a bit more. This shorter term moving average, which is the 63-day moving average, that could be used as a kind of buy point, or in order to not buy it, as it were. In other words, to stay out of it until it closes above. It got close there as resistance. So, you know, in some ways, this is like an automatic trend line. I think the first stage of it reversing will be to break the moving average. I'd feel more comfortable if it takes out this 75 cents point, even if it does get above this, because it would obviously do that first. Even if the market went sideways, this would trend down and it would then break it, which may not be significant. So again, this is one that we might have to come back to see what's causing the reversal, if indeed there is one. So for me, I prefer to wait for 75 cents to be sure that at least there's a short-term base in there. So for the moment, given the uncertainty and the fact that it's resting on this support, it's just going to be a wait.
Let's see. So Immutable X, I remember when it hit down at these previous price lows back here, and really good buy for Immutable X. Now, I watch what kind of adoption things are having, and back here, Immutable X was having more adoption than they've continued to have. And they do offer some really good things for video game projects, but they are kind of expensive over time. So rather than video games running their NFTs associated with them on ETH, Immutable X was a really good option as essentially a layer 2 for ETH that people could use. They still have good enough adoption. I think they're going to do well in this coming bull run. And I like to see the prices down here. It was an amazing buy down here. And we saw this pump go all the way up from these lows of 42 cents. And when they hit these lows, people were saying, oh my gosh, Immutable X, it's the worst ever. They can't turn around. And just when sentiment gets really, really low like that, it's often a really good time to buy. And you saw it go all the way crazy. And then everyone was talking about it here. A lot of channels were talking about it. And Immutable X, oh my gosh, it's a great buy. And it wasn't a great buy. This was a great buy. This was cheap. This was expensive. Now it's come back down for another dip at cheap. So I like it. I wish I was seeing more adoption of Immutable X by video games. And there's some. I would like to see more, but one of the big games coming out off the grid is launching on Avalanche. And if you look at Avalanche, their market cap is higher than Immutable X. Immutable X market cap was just under $1 billion, and Avalanche is at $8 billion. But off the grid is having their tokens or their NFTs will be minted on Avalanche, and Avalanche has a higher market cap by 8x. But if you don't see a lot of major projects choosing Immutable X over the long term, they won't have as much sustainability. Now, there are some really good big projects already building on Immutable X. So there's probably enough traction. Where will the new video games that are AAA level that get major adoption build? Well, if it's Immutable X, then they have an amazing long-term future. And if it's not, they won't. But it's still a buy for me just because I think the future for them is rosy. I would like to see it even rosier with way more adoption by video games, but there is enough adoption. They are backed by Coinbase. The original thing the reason they built Immutable X is Gods Unchained, which was a card game, which was invested by Coinbase Ventures and backed by Coinbase Ventures. They were just on ETH and they need to build a layer 2 so that their cards would be sellable essentially. So they built Immutable X and they made it so they would try to get a lot of other companies building on Immutable X, and they have some. I've heard from some companies that it's kind of expensive for the project themselves over the long term to be on Immutable X, and so that is somewhat of a barrier for companies to want to build on Immutable X. So we'll see. I know VV NFTs are on, or VV digital collectibles are on Immutable X, and a number of other games like Illuvium are on Immutable X, and so that bodes well for Immutable X if they can continue to get adoption. So it still gets a buy for me. I like the fundamentals. I like the price action. I like to buy in ranges where I think it's massively underpriced. And at 52 cents, I think it's massively underpriced. I didn't like it when it was up at $3 and $4 and $2, but at 52 cents, absolutely. All right, let's take a look at Jupiter. And I remember some major large YouTube channels talking about how great Jupiter was and how they were buying more Jupiter at $1.30. And let's see what the price action has done since then.
Well, it's still in a downward trend here. It reflects some, altcoins that are in a similar state, but it's broken through the low from last year, which is not a great sign. And it has been trending down pretty much since December 24. And so there's not a lot to say here other than it's anything that's trading on an absolute low in technical terms is a sell. So one would sell a break, and then if that break is false, the market would come back very quickly, and it's not coming back quickly enough for comfort. So it does look like it's got a bit more potential downside before it turns around. At the very least, we'd look for some form of trend change. using this trend line or these trend lines. So you can see how this hasn't happened in a vacuum. It's not just suddenly broken lower, it's been accelerating lower. So this was the rate of decline, and then the rate of decline is accelerated. And until we get a break of a bearish trend line, technically I can't step in unless we see some base formation. And a base formation is the market going sideways and then, sideways and then starting to turn up. Then we've got something to build on and a base with which to buy and to put stops below. But just buying something because it's going down is not a strategy that's used in technical analysis. So for me, it's very much a wait, and it's sort of wait stroke sell for me. But I think a wait is probably the fairest point.
Yeah, Jupiter has some crazy price action, which is what I love to see. If you look at the history of it, remember, incentives are all wrong with the YouTube algorithm, in that your incentive is to talk about things when they're expensive. So as meme coins were doing well, meme coins were being traded on Solana mostly, and they were using Jupiter to trade meme coins on Solana. And so Jupiter's coin had recently launched, and if you had a YouTube channel that you were trying to grow really, really big so that you could get good advertising revenue, well, you talk about what is quote unquote hot. And so I remember watching a channel that has like 1 million subscribers, and they're like, oh my gosh, Jupiter's at $1.30 and I'm going to buy some more, and I'm going to keep buying, I'm going to keep buying. And look, when it's hot and all the major YouTube channels are talking about it, that is not the time to buy, because what happens since then? Massive reversal, and it doesn't stay hot for forever. Real quick question by Real Randy Chavez, who gave us a super chat. So FDUSD just depegged. How will this affect the market? Well, that's interesting. I haven't heard that yet. FDUSD depegged. I haven't seen the news on that, so that could be a big problem. When things depeg, sometimes they're able to come back. So when they peg a stable coin to the US dollar, when they depeg, that sometimes it means it's actually going to become valueless because people won't trust it anymore. I went down to 85 cents and then just bought back up. That's a pretty big depeg. When it goes down from, say, its dollar value that they're trying to peg it to, all the way down to 85 cents. Something big happened there for it to depeg that much. And ones that depeg that much don't often survive long term. So I guess we'll have to see how it plays out. I don't have any FDUSD. I mostly use USDT and USDC, mostly USDC these days. So I don't have any exposure to FDUSD. Is it big enough to crash the market if FDUSD depegs? In this environment, sure, it would add more fun. Absolutely. All right, so
the questions I would ask, and I'm not saying I know the answers to this, but the questions I would ask is what's caused it, and why would people use it as opposed to some of the other stable coins, and how much of it have they used compared to the other stable coins for the effects that it's had. The fact that it's been bought up from a low suggests at this point there's some hope that it may be resolved in some way, and I'm not saying I know anything, I'm just saying that why would they do that? It should be effectively worthless, like you were saying. If once trust has gone, it's very hard to bring back. But we're in a fear environment, but we should still be moving into a stronger risk on environment. So that might be telling us something. But those are the questions I would want to know the answer to. Well, I've not heard that as much as I've heard the other stable coins. So why would one use that one compared to the others? And that that may tell us who might be affected by it and why they might be affected by it. But so far, I mean, if the news has just come out, literally just come out, there's not been much of a reaction. So it seems to be absorbing it pretty well, I would say.
Yeah, hard to tell. So big shakeout with, UST. Excuse me. Depegging a long time ago. That was a big deal because there were tons of money locked up in UST for the 20% or so returns that are being paid out. DUSD, I think, is that a Binance stablecoin? I'm not sure. It might be a Binance stablecoin. If it is, I don't know how much impact it has. Binance was the largest, most used exchange, but then they had to disallow U.S. investors on there, which removed probably 2/3 of their liquidity and trading, and so there wouldn't be very much exposure to it. And we'll see. Probably it will end up surviving. We'll see. Okay, so back to Jupiter itself. Let's take a look at Jupiter. If you're looking to trade a Solana DEX, now is a much more interesting time to be buying its token than it was. So it's gone below previous low, so maybe it's going to see even a bigger dip. But now is when it starts getting interesting to people like me. I don't like to chase it when everyone's bullish on it. Everyone was bullish on it back here, and I just don't chase green candles. So when people are talking about it and I've seen a market structure like this, I think, well, I missed it. So when I see a market structure like this, much more interesting, but it isn't clear that it's bottomed yet. It hasn't even slowed its descent. So I wouldn't even be buying it yet here. I would just be waiting. In fact, perhaps I'd be selling it and rolling into other things that I know are cheap, because it might get cheaper from here. So meme coins aren't getting the kind of trading in action they were before. They're solidly out of the narrative now. And that was a lot of what was fueling all this Jupiter trading. So this is why so many people get wrecked in crypto, is that they're buying it when the major channels are talking about things and they're like, yes, Jupiter. And if you bought it here, like if you're selling here and you're rolling into something else that's cheap, you can still do well. But what happens here is people buy here or somewhere in this realm, they sell here and they roll it into the new hot thing, something that's been pumping. And then they just get repeatedly wrecked by this type of cycle. And then they think crypto's a scam, and what they haven't learned is they're just doing it wrong. They're trading based on their emotions, and they're buying in at highs and then selling at lows, and they're doing that repeatedly. Okay, let's take a look at Injective, which was also being talked about by all the major crypto YouTube channels for a while. And we'll take a look at its price action and see if now is a good deal, because when everyone's talking about it, not usually a good deal.
Well, where we are now is in a very interesting support area. So it's come back to test this $9.81, which was a massive breakout point, really significant on the chart, accelerated through it, attempted twice to break through, and then on the third time it did it. So it's come back to that area, which has seen some buying. And there is also support that goes down to this $8.05 area. So it tested that, rebounded, it's come off again, and it's just hovering around close to it. So it's not enough to step in, but it is definitely in a watch zone for me. So I would say I need it to get through this $11.12 area, because that was the recent high. It's also where prior support would be resistance. And see the big sell off here, how it rebounded, and when it took that out, that was significant. So this area here is very pivotal. So I would like to see it back through $11.20 to turn this into a buy. This short-term moving average, as you can see, is tracking this current price rate very, very well. So again, that could be used as a marker for it to either get over or close over as a first step. But where it is now, I would be more tempted to wait and just watch than step in. I don't see any reason why buying it now for me would be a good idea. I mean, look, in terms of risk reward, I could consider buying it at $9, putting a stop at 772, somewhere around here, which is below this price support, and below this support area as well. As a trader, that's the sort of thing I look for. So one could do that. It's just that there's just at this point not enough evidence that this is turned around yet. So I'd rather see it higher and buy a breakout from resistance than try and perhaps be clever here and pick the low. Now, that doesn't mean that this isn't the low. That could well be, and it may well move higher. It's just that there's not enough evidence at this point for me to be confident enough, even if I can hide a decent stop below $8 from a short-term trade. So for me, it's got to be a wait.
Yeah, so just like I gotta remove that before switching over. Injective is interesting. It's starting to get attractive again, but look at its rate of descent, right? So here everyone's talking about it, and oh my gosh, it's the biggest thing. And they had some news about their blockchain getting a lot of adoption, and they went from these lows, which these were a really attractive price. I covered Injective way back here as a buy, and then I thought Injective was undervalued. Well, it went all the way to $51, $52, and now it's back to $9. So much more appealing price. I don't think it's bottomed yet. It is slowing the rate of descent, which I like to see, but I like to see more roundness. You see, even as it's coming down here, some roundness, and that came up. It's going back down, some more roundness. Like Injective, I think is a project that probably makes it long term. They're definitely going to make it until this coming bull run goes crazy. And so it is a good project. It's a higher market cap project. It's a $900 million market cap. But they were, $4 or $5 billion market cap before. And they'll probably go back to that and exceed it in the bull market, which may happen in a few months. It may happen late this year. Could happen early next year. So I like Injective. It's interesting. It is definitely like a watch, and I think it gets a little bit cheaper here before it turns around, but it's really getting interesting. Notice nobody's talking about it now. So this is why I say buy when it's boring, meaning nobody's talking about it. And yet, like, don't forget these gems like Injective. Injective is a gem of a project, and it's starting to get to an attractive price. I like it, the team behind it, what they're doing. It's time to start watching it now that nobody's talking about it. Cool. Let's take a look at OMI. See what we got going on there.
Yeah. I think you can pretty much guess what I'm going to say. It's still in a downward trend. Averages are still down. There is some evidence of some buying, very short term, but not enough for a trend change as yet. And it's still a wait. So yeah, for me, it's as simple as that.
Yeah, still descending, that price action, and it hasn't stopped. So we're just seeing the still descent, and usually it'll slow down and turn around and go still descending. I really like the long-term potential of this one. I like the team and what they're doing. And yeah, I've been buying up this, and it's, it's risky buying at these prices, realizing that it may still continue to fall, and it has. And I love the value proposition on it, so I continue to buy at these lower prices, and because I think the true fundamental value on it is much higher than where the price action is at. So I like this one, but it hasn't turned around, and I do like to see more roundness going on than what we're seeing, but it keeps exploring lower lows. And so for me, I'm fine to buy. I like this one enough long term that I'm fine to buy this chart pattern, which is not signaled that it's turned around. And that's okay with me. Will it continue to get cheaper? I do hope it does continue to get cheaper. I would love it if this one got even cheaper and cheaper, while some other things that I have went and did really well. And then I would take profits in some of those other things and buy more OMI at these prices or even below. So for me, it's a buy. And if it gets even cheaper, which it might, in fact, the chart looks like it wants to, I would then just be dollar cost averaging more. All right, let's take a look at, got some suggestions. Pink Panther says, OMI, you can do it. Yes, it's definitely the price action is struggling, which then has a lot of people worried because they like to see or feel that it's going the other way, and it hasn't been yet. So let's take a look. I guess let's talk first about the PENGU ETF. So PENGU is like a really interesting thing that happened with Pudgy Penguins, which was a really successful NFT project. They got like some actual merchandise launched in Walmart and really helped the Pudgy Penguin NFTs do incredibly well. And really cool like thing that the team did. I don't buy like profile pic NFT projects. It's just there's so many of them. The few that make it, I just don't like the predictability very well. So I don't have any Pudgy Penguins. I didn't buy their token because it's not a pattern that's very recognizable. And so like their tokens gotten enough talk that there might be an ETF put together of it. I think we'll see ETFs put together of many of the billion-dollar market cap and up projects. And maybe some ETFs of like indexes of certain sectors like blockchain gaming and other things. So good question on that. I don't know. Have you followed Pudgy Penguins at all, Paul?
No, other than we did talk about it a while back, and I didn't know very much about it other than it seemed to be a bit of a meme coin. And just having a quick look at the chart here, it's in a downward trend, so it's not looking great. So an ETF on something that's going down is not going to be any better, but it's just baffling for me if it is a meme coin that they'd make an ETF on a meme coin. It's I don't know. I don't know why one would do that, but there we go.
Yeah. Let's take a look over at Senate token.
Okay. The only thing I'd say on Pudgy Penguin is if it's so well known that they sell merch and it becomes a character that they can then put into a film or something like that, then it might have value. It may have IP that could extend in a very strange way. That is a possibility, but that's the only thing I'd say at the moment that it has potential for. Unless I've missed something. I mean, I don't know much about it from a fundamental point of view, but the chart looks pretty negative at the moment, which is what I would be basing it off. So unless you could tell me something about it,
yeah,
different.
A lot of times when tokens launch and their token launch, it had a big swing to the upside and then just big correction as a lot of the token vesting, a lot of the tokens then get released to the pre-sale investors and stuff, and it's really common to have that kind of sell off for a while before at some point it turns around. So I think overall the project's still doing well. People get caught up in the initial hype and they buy in on the initial hype, and it's just a terrible time to buy. They get wrecked doing that, and then the price just declines for a long time before they start to get interesting for somebody like me. Now, I don't buy meme coins, so I'm not going to buy any PENGU. But often I watch projects when they launch, and then a bunch of the tokens vest over time, and it punishes the price for a while. And then it makes for a really interesting pickup for me to be able to buy cheap if I think the fundamental value is a lot higher than what the current price is. So,
But on a meme coin, how would you value it?
exactly. This one's so interesting because it's tied to this real merchandise project, this profile pic project that has had a lot of success on the actual NFTs, a lot of success in selling their merchandise and building a fan base, and then a token associated with it. Like, I think that token will probably stay around, but meme coins are hard to value because what is the fundamental value? It's almost like a fan club. And you have to value it as a fan club. And like, well, if you have a lot more people coming into the fan club, then the token price will go up. And if you have a lot of people leaving the fan club, but it's really only a fan club, and the only thing that can happen is like the makers of it might continue to do some marketing or some interesting moves that bring more people to the fan club, but there's no intrinsic business behind it.
Yeah, I mean, it could be something that will revive in the next phase, and that would be really interesting to see, you know, and then we could just get this kind of wall of optimism as these types of coin revive, and then it'll be an indication that we're possibly near the top. But we can revisit. I'm sure we'll revisit it one way or another. But that's interesting. It's interesting that there's at least a little bit more of a business behind it rather than just a meme coin and that's it, you know. So I guess it's got a bit more than other coins of a similar stature.
Yeah.
So on Senate, the chart here is still unfortunately in a downward trend. I think the last time we looked at it, it was pretty much doing a similar thing. It's been fairly consistent in its trend direction and the trend rate, and it's below its shorter term moving average as well. There's no support points that I can point to on this particular chart, even though it may go back much further. And then there may be something on a longer term chart that could indicate that support is close, but I can't see it on this one. So for me, it's very much a wait. The kind of signature pattern that it's got is slowed a little bit, and you know, it's from March to where we are now. It's put in a low, but the low in terms of its momentum has slowed a little bit. So that's a good sign, but it's not enough for a reversal. We need a trend line break at the very least to show that strength is coming into the market. So if we pop that along here, you can see it's still below this line, and that's the main line. And ideally, we'd have some kind of trend ending signal, which should be some kind of flush out and then a rebound, or something like a very sharp move up that indicates, you know, sentiment is changing. So in absence of those things and the fact that it's still below the trend line, for me, it has to be a wait.
Yeah. Now, Senate is one of the blockchain gaming projects that I do like, and they're associated with the CEDAS project. Now, blockchain gaming is solidly out of the narrative right now, which is when things really get interesting to me. And if you look at their token, when it got really cheap here at under 2 cents, it was at 1.7 cents. I thought it was really underpriced. And then it went crazy as blockchain gaming went crazy, and it went to 30 cents. So about a 15, 16x there. And then blockchain gaming has fallen out of the narrative and it's gotten really, really cheap again. And I think it's underpriced. Now, the chart is pretty steep. It looks like it's not turning around yet. Now, blockchain gaming is a narrative I strongly believe in, and it's going to do incredibly well. I think this new game, Off the Grid, is going to be probably the most talked about video game in the world later on. And a lot of these projects like Senate, if they can survive till that run happens, their tokens will do incredibly well in that type of environment. Like, even though I believe in Off the Grid, like they have a guns token that recently launched, and it's a terrible time to buy the guns token And maybe guns will end up doing well. Let's take a look at how it's doing. Like Senate, I would give it a buy, a cautious buy, because I think the chart has not turned around. But the guns token like came out, so it went tremendously high at first, and then it's got some sell pressure into it. I guess they had talked about using 30% of their revenues to buy back the token and possibly burn it. If they do that, that's going to put a lot of buy pressure on the token. This game is doing a lot of things right. I have it loaded up. I wanted to show something that just dropped today related to this game. Let me reload my screen. Let's see, percent. I've got it. There we go. So this just dropped today. It looks like they did a partnership, correct me if I'm wrong, with Bored Ape. And I was watching the video and they did have the Bored Ape icon. So these are some skins that you can have playing the game. And this just came out this morning. And let's see, Banana Rec Republic. And so they had earlier done in November 1st, right before the US elections, they had done a Kamala skin and a Trump skin. And these Trump skins are now going for a ton of money in the game. So back then you could buy these Trump skins off the market for 500 guns tokens. And now they're going for like almost 30,000 guns tokens. So I think the creators behind this project have done a really good job in implementing if these are official Bored Apes. And I think they are watching the video. They had the Bored Ape Yacht Club symbol in it. That's a big deal. NFTs are bullshit. Like, I like the humor behind these guys and what they're doing. I'm impressed. Now, would I be buying the guns token? The guns token is risky when things first come out and there's a lot of vesting pressure. I don't know, but for those that like video games, you can download this game, and if you pay the $12 a month, you'll get 2 of these. I don't know. I think they're official Bored Ape things, but you get 2 of them, and then you can play the game and earn some things to buy some more of them. I think things like this will probably do well. I think the game is good enough that when everyone's focused on crypto, that this game will become one of the most talked about games in the world, because you'll be able to essentially earn money playing the game. So we saw that with Axie Infinity 4 years ago when crypto was going crazy. Axie Infinity was the most playable blockchain game at the time, which it wasn't very fun for people like me to play. It was quite boring, but yet because you could essentially earn things, that the monetary value was doing so well because of all the crypto FOMO, you could earn money playing the game, and Axie Infinity became the 10th highest played game in the world for a while. Fast forward 4 years and you have a game that's much more in line with what major video game players are wanting to play, plus it's available on Xbox, PlayStation, and computers. And then I think a game like this goes crazy, and that almost all the video game people in the world are talking about it in the right environment where crypto is on everyone's minds. Now, we're not in that right environment yet, but I think that's coming. So wanted to share those insights. This game, they've done a good job with it. I'm like what I see. Would I buy the token at these prices? I'm not buying the token at these prices. Not clear that it's a good enough deal for me to buy the token. Playing the game and buying some of these essentially NFTs, absolutely smart in my opinion. All right, so let me bring my screen back up. So Senate, am I buying Senate at these prices? I want to. I need something else to do better to free up some liquidity to buy some Senate at these prices. So this is kind of price that's really attractive to me. Now, is it clear it's turning around? You can see the rate of descent is slowing down, and it seems to be near a bottom. It's even cheaper than it was here. So you have lower prices than what you saw the whole bear market. You have a $1.4 million market cap. Most of the tokens are in circulation. Really, really attractive in my opinion. It gets a buy from me, and I think it'll get even cheaper, a little bit cheaper, and then it'd be a buy more. Cool. Let's see. All right, we got a few suggestions for DEVVE. Let's take a look at DEVVE.
Yeah. So DEVVE is it's been interesting, isn't it? Because it had this run up and then it was coming back to this 49 cents support, which is I think when we last looked at it. I just put this line in, by the way, this trend line. That wasn't in there before. That's because it's marking the new kind of trend rate, and it's performing pretty well. You know, it's bounced before the 49 cents area. It's printed a higher low. It's actually breaking its recent resistance point. This trend line that was broken is now acting as resistance, and it's sort of tapping against that, which is a good sign that it's trying to reverse. So it did it there, came off, but it's coming back again. So I think it's a small buy for me, not an aggressive one, but a small one, because it feels like it wants to trade up, and there's still a lot of resistance ahead, but trade perhaps it might get drawn towards this 98 cents area, this $1, which is a big psychological point. But as long as it stays over this trend line, for me, I think that's it's good. I mean, it's been in an upward trend anyway, so we've liked it. We were just saying around here it was a bit too fast. When it came down, we were looking for a repeat of this area here, but there's no more data to relate it to. So, we were looking for maybe a sideways move. With everything else, it came off a bit more aggressively, and we're looking at where it might stop. Around 49 cents was put forward as a good potential buy area. And as I say, it's been responding pretty well ahead of that. So that's a good sign. But it wouldn't surprise me again if it just went sideways for a bit longer, because lots of markets are doing that. So that's why I'd say it's a small buy for me. But from a longer term perspective, I still like it because it's trending up, and it's held on to this 49 cents area, which was really, really crucial. So yeah, it's looking good.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of what's going on with DEVVE. I look at the fundamental value. So fastest blockchain in the world that I'm aware of, 8 million transactions per second. Very, 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 very low cost for transactions to happen. Huge amount of ability for massive transactions, as well as the programming language that they integrated with are API calls. And so most programmers know how to do API calls. So it makes this blockchain easily integratable with most everything. Web 2 projects, other crypto projects, other blockchains. It can integrate more easily than pretty much every other blockchain out there. It just hasn't yet had the awareness and the traction yet. Most people in the crypto space completely unaware of DEVVE right now, but that will probably change, and possibly that'll change sooner rather than later. Interesting. Recently released, they're going to be speaking at Paris Blockchain Week, and my friend Real Randy Chavez was tweeting about this post recently. I am looking forward to speaking at Paris Blockchain Week by Ray Quintana, one of the co-founders. My topic, Dev Digital and the next generation digital asset exchange, bringing DeFi to TradFi, with an exciting partner sharing the stage. They've been teasing this partner for a long time. So if it's the partner, I hope it is, yeah, that might finally be revealed, because they haven't revealed who this partner is that they partnered with late last year. That's one of the largest traditional finance exchanges in the world. So we'll see if that actually gets fully announced, and that might bring a lot more awareness to DEVVE, because really one of the big things hurting them is just low awareness. I think they have incredibly strong fundamentals as a company, and what they're doing is amazing. It's just most of the crypto space is completely unaware of them yet. But when you have strong fundamentals, eventually you do catch on and people become aware of it. There's plenty of substance there for people to grab onto, and I think DEVVE has that. So I think everything under $1 is a good price. I think this project goes to $10, maybe even 100, maybe even 1,000 in this coming bull run. Where in there, they have lots of substance. How high they go depends on how much traction they have and who this partner is, and really what that announcement entails, because the partner, like how intertwined are they with this partner, that's not really been made clear yet. So if they have a huge intertwinedness with this partner in the future, then that is a real ton of substance. So DEVVE, I'd give it a buy at this. I think this price is still a good deal, even though it was recently as cheap as 58 cents or 60 cents. Even at the 78 cents, it's an amazing deal. They were recently 170, so it's over half price off. Cool. Great suggestion. All right. When Guns token. Well, Guns token is out there, but I'm not buying now. I have learned some amazing lessons being in crypto for a while. In 2021, I invested in a whole bunch of pre-sale projects. And I found that pre-sale, I don't like pre-sale investing near as much as I like just waiting for the bear market and buying projects that are already released. I really figured out the sweet spot during 2023 and 2024's bear market is that a lot of these projects that have already released, their tokens are getting punished by token vesting in the bear market. And when you buy them, you can instantly like trade them when you want to. So if they do go crazy, you have 100% of them available to you. So back in like 2021 or 2022, I put $16,000 into the pre-sale of Off the Grid for that game, right, into the Guns tokens. But initially, the agreement was that you would get 3% of the tokens when the token released, and then there would be a 1-year lockup. Well, a lot of times these projects like to renegotiate the deal later. And so later they decide, well, we're not going to give you any of your tokens at the release, and you're still going to have a big cliff before you get any of your tokens. So $16,000 locked up for almost 4 years now, and still no tokens. And by the time they get released, I don't know what the Guns token will be doing by then. And so these pre-sale investments, though they can work out good, a lot of times the team will like change the terms on you. And can they do that? Well, your only option is to try to sue them, but what jurisdiction are you going to sue them in? And so you just are kind of stuck having to wait. Now, is that investment going to end up being all right? Yeah, I think that it will end up being all right, but there's an opportunity cost. That $16,000 was able to deploy into one of these projects. I think have been massively underpriced the last year or two. Probably those funds will massively outperform in the bull run. What can happen with this? Because by the time you get the pre-sale tokens released to you, the token, it might be a bear market again, and the token price might be being punished. And so your gains aren't anywhere near what you hope they would be. All right. One more suggestion. Can you check out TRAC? It's the chain link of Bitcoin. So in other words, he's saying the Oracle for price action for Bitcoin. So TRAC, TRAC.
So does that look right? Origin Trail?
It might be Origin Trail. Origin Trail's been around for a long time, but I'm not certain. That was the biggest one. There was one that had to do with an ordinals project, but they're unfortunately, like there's often multiple ticker symbols for something. So there's a couple different TRACs. This one has the highest market cap, which is $181 million market cap.
Right. Okay. So the one that I've got there, did that look right
I
to
think
you?
it's correct. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I'll just check on this chart.
Oh, he wanted the ordinals one. So under coin market cap, this is what it looks like. TRAC ordinals market cap is 10 million.
What's the ticker?
TRAC,
TRAC.
yes.
Oh, TRAC ordinals. Here we go. Yeah,
that one.
Yeah, I mean that definitely looks more interesting. So the other one, I was like, I can't really see what's happening other than it looks like it's going down. This one is actually moving off its lows. Shame we can't get a chart on the other one, because obviously we're going to get this blocked out by this screen thing here, the data screen that just covers everything up. But what we've seen here is a clear downward trend, obviously, and more recently we've got these 3 bars that are indicating that the market may be forming a new base, a new reversal. I suspect that within this there's a reversal pattern forming as well, although it's very difficult to see. Let's stick it on the log. Yeah, there might be an inverse head and shoulders pattern there, which means that it would make it a buy whilst it's over 30 cents. So yeah, a good one to finish on, because that looks like there's some evidence of a reversal. Now, this is the sort of thing that I might step in the short term, and if it breaks support, I'm out. So this isn't a long-term trade by any stretch of the imagination. And to be fair, it's not justified that a long-term base hasn't been formed and it's still broadly in a downward trend. It's just that there's some emerging evidence that it's turning around, which could be interesting in the next few weeks or so. So for me, it would be a short-term buy. Obviously, due diligence on other things like what it actually does put to one side. But yeah, look, the chart looks interesting. Looks like it's basing out. So, interesting one to bring to us, and one that we should come back to if it's a project that you also like.
Yeah, doing a little bit of fundamental research on it. I do like where the chart is. See that slow, like rounding bottom there that then is showing like that it wants to move upward now. I like to see that. Ordinals have been solidly out of the narrative for a while, and I like it when they're out of the narrative. You can do a more patient buy, a well-researched buy. So right now is a great time to be researching the heck out of this. You can go to CoinMarketCap, find them. You can link on their websites, their Twitter. Here's their Twitter right here. Looks like they got 49,000 followers. TRAC staking is live. You can really start doing some research. I like to find interviews, if there's interviews with the team, because I want to find out more about who the team is that's running it and what their vision for what they're doing now is. So that's what I'd be looking for. Their market cap is a $10 million market cap. So like you've already seen this go 20x over where it is here, or almost 20x. So can it go back up there and higher? It possibly can. So that would be a 20x from here would be about a $2 billion or $200 million market cap. Could it go to $1 billion market cap or more? Maybe. Yeah. Overall, this would get a cautious buy for me. I would want to watch a bunch of interviews from the team and see what their things are. Because will it do well from here? I imagine the chart, like I really like the chart, and it will probably do well from here. But remember, everything you invest in has an opportunity cost. Could that money be used better somewhere else? And so I like to place my bets on things that have the highest potential, right? So somebody was asking for a price prediction on DEVVE. Who was that? Andreas was asking, what's your price prediction on DEVVE? One of the reasons I do like DEVVE so much is it isn't clear how well they're going to do, but they have crazy potential. So they're a blockchain that can do 8 million transactions per second. Bitcoin can do several transactions per second. You know, ETH can do like 12 to 20 transactions per second. So you need these kinds of speeds. And even Solana, you know, supposedly can do 50,000 transactions per second, but I don't think they've been able to actually do that. So we're talking about really, really fast speeds. It is a permission blockchain, but permission blockchains can be really important for enterprises. Enterprises in corporate usage, they want a permissioned blockchain rather than a permissionless blockchain. But they haven't caught traction. Most of the world doesn't know who they are, and so they're sitting at this really low market cap of 70 million for the fastest blockchain in the world that's easily integratable into Web 2.0 stuff. So all these Web 2.0 companies can upgrade to blockchain for really inexpensive and very fast speeds with their programmers not really having to understand blockchain at all. So the story for DEVVE is really, really strong, but where will this actually go to? It's unclear. It depends on how much traction they get. So what I like about it is even if they don't get much traction, they could still easily go to $1 billion or $2 or $3 billion market cap, which would still be really good return from here. It'd be a 10, 20, 30x from here. If they get some traction, not a ton, but if they get some solid traction, they can go to a $10 billion market cap with the layer 1 blockchain that can do those kinds of speeds. And that would be over 100x from here. At a $10 billion market cap, it would be like 130x from here. Now, if they really catch traction, so if this partnership is really big and all the world starts talking about DEVVE, all the crypto world, then they can go to a 20, 30, 40, 50, $100 billion market cap in the coming bull run. And that would, at $100 billion market cap, that's over 1,000x from here. So I think the price is really punished. Even at these prices, I think the upside potential is strong. I really like it. So we'll see how it ends up doing, but it is one of my biggest holdings in crypto. And there's a reason why I've allocated so much in this versus other things is it's risky. I don't know how it all comes together, but I think even if it doesn't come together as well as I was hoping, it's still a solid 10 or 15 or maybe 20x from here. But if it really comes together, the upside is much, much bigger. Is Bump dead? Not a lot coming out of that team. You're absolutely right in that there's not a lot coming out. They have done some updates. I would love to see a lot more from them. It's a time period that a lot of crypto projects are struggling because I imagine their reserves aren't near what they would like to see, and so they're holding on, waiting for the bull market to turn around and the price action to turn around. And if they can survive until the bull market comes around, like Bumper has a really cool use case, I would love to see viable. So I really like the business idea. I like the team behind the business, but do they have the operating cash in order to continue operations until things come together? I hope so, because I really like it. I own a lot of Bumper, but you are seeing some pain there. I imagine it's pain. They haven't been really, really communicative lately. And I can't say I love that. But I do love their use case. So we'll see if they end up surviving. Maybe you can put me in touch with TRAC. What is the best way to contact you? On my Telegram, at Crypto Rain with 2 N's is the best way to reach out to me. And sure, I'll talk to them. I won't bring them on the channel until I at least talk to them some and get a feel for them and how much I like them. But then if that goes well, I'd love to have them on the channel. Yeah. So Bumper isn't dead. It's a risky buy right now, right? So are they showing signs of life? A little bit, but many, just got word that another project, ShopX, closed their doors. And ShopX was one that really did well in their launch in 2021. And I like their idea, decentralized Shopify. But I did do an interview with them in the bear market of like 2022, later 2022. I wasn't overly impressed with the interview with what their vision for the future was for it. And so I stopped talking about them then. I was just like, this team, I don't know that their vision is good. So they probably ran out of funds during the bear market. And I guess they're continuing operations, but they're disowning the token. So essentially the project is dead and nobody's going to believe in them, at this point. So that is like these businesses die, and I own a bunch of ShopX tokens. Those are pretty much now probably going to be worthless. And that's just part of early stage business investing. At the more time that goes on, the better you get, and that but you'll always still have some failures. Right. But that's what death looks like, right? That ShopX announcement, Bumper isn't dead, but some of these projects will end up dying before the bull market hits, especially with this prolonged pain from the trade war and the markets getting punished. You might see some more projects get shaken out and they go ahead and close their doors and give up. All right, Paul, any final thoughts?
No, not really. We just have to sit it out for the moment. I'm not as bearish as the market, and that's probably not a surprise. But let's see what comes in this new quarter. And yeah, we'll see you next week. Thanks for the picks. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, Paul.
Thank you.
Yeah, just quick update to everyone. Remember, I like to look at these charts, and when the pain was really severe, and I remember the pain on this day, there were some major things coming in here during this bear market that showing the wrong thing. This is the Bitcoin chart, and during 2020's bear market, before 2021 really happened, some massive FUD, and everyone was so concerned and things seemed so uncertain. And this was when the fear and greed index was super low. Another time when fear and greed index was super low. Another time fear and greed index was super low. And so these times that the fear and greed index is super low are usually amazing buying opportunities, not selling opportunities. But a lot of people do this wrong. They trade based on emotions, and they get freaked out during periods like this, and they haven't learned to rush in when others are running away and run away when others are rushing in, kind of like what the Navy SEALs do. So when I talk about becoming like a Navy SEAL of crypto investing, that's what you have to do to be in the 5% that makes amazing money in this, is to be able to identify the opportunities that are worth taking a chance on. But still, you are taking some risks, and you are still taking some chances, because some of these projects will fail, like Meld failed, ShopX failed. And I look back at when I invested over the bear market of 2020, and you could say I was a terrible investor. My ratios are even better this last bear market. There's still some failures, but this is what my ratios look like from 2018 to 2020. 2/3 of what I invested in failed. Only a third survived into that coming bull market. But the third that survived from the bottom went 100x. So my portfolio from the bottom did 100x up to the top. So, and that was with 2/3 failing. So imagine as you get better and 2/3 of your picks don't fail, what kind of potential there is. Now, early stage business investing, venture capital investing does look a lot like this. I remember when I was at the university, I specifically took this class taught by 3 angel investors, business angel investors, that they taught for free the course, and they're really successful with their businesses, and they invested in early stage businesses. And they told me that about 10% of what they invest in really succeeds. So 1 in 10 really succeeds. 2 or 3 kind of do okay, and 6 or 7 of them fail completely. So that actually looks pretty similar to my numbers from 2018 through 2020. What looks massively different is the overall returns. in the timeline, because regular business, early stage business investing, if you had, say, 3 survived, they might make, over a 10-year period, they might make 7 to 10x their returns. And yet from the bottom, I far exceeded that in just over a total of 4 years. And so it really, in this crypto space, this is the place to be. Your returns are so much better. If you get even better, so that, you know, more than 30% of your investments survive, the amount of returns you can make are incredible. Cool. So I did stop investing, like way back then. I invested in meme coins and some other very risky projects that I don't invest anymore. And that's why my ratios are much higher as far as what survived. And you might even see a few more shake out, but a few of them, like Meld, have failed. But Meld had a strong team, really strong ideas, really seemed to do well for a while, but they spent all their funds on marketing, trying to bring attention to them in the middle of the bear market, instead of using that capital more sparingly during the bear market just to survive during the bear market. And they went under. And so even good business, good people behind it, business failed. And you'll see that your early stage business investing. All right, guys, enjoy this wrap. You know what this is about. We'll see you all soon.
To the space, chasing all of the gains, chasing the pumps and all of the hype trains. But like in life, you buy before you could. Was told to buy when it was pouring like a rainmaker should. I buy when it's down, don't chase the boats that I miss. Cause I always make the time in mind. I take the one out cause I'm patient like that. And I'll wait for the right time. I sell when it's high, I buy when it's low. They call me rich, they call me smart. I'm just a rainmaker running the show. Calculated investments, I don't leave with my heart. The principles are simple, they're leaving a mark. Why when it's boring, just gotta be smart. I sell when it's hype, like all the channels they pump it. That's when I was selling, got parabolic and dump it. They call me rich, they call me smart. I'm a rainmaker, making my own start. I'm with the future, learning the past. Makes the time fly by, years going so fast. The game plan is mine, I'll own it now. When I reach the top, haters asking me how. Cause I'm a rainmaker, investments I love. And I follow what I learn, not relying on luck. Time is never better, the time like the present. This next 5 years is a gift and it's feeling like heaven. I'm committed to learn, to study and to know that nothing comes easy but with knowledge the game show. Sticking out this road, cause soon will come a bear market. Learning and growing, and when it's slow will be the target. They say it's come out, Bitcoin is dead. The massive decreases can get to your head. Sticking around, the time is better. Strong like that, I'll let the others be fretters. 2 years time, the ball will bring back the gains. That makes it worth the effort, cause here comes the rain. So let's go rainmakers, let's make it all happen. They go with the hate, let the haters be crapping. I'm here for 5 years, let's do this together. The time is right, the time could be better. They call me rich, they call me smart. I'm a rainmaker, making my own start. I'm with the future, learning the past. Makes the time fly by, years going so fast. The game plan is mine, I'll own it now. When I reach the top, haters asking me how. Cause I'm a rainmaker, investments I love. And I follow what I learn, not relying on luck. Haters be hating, the time to slow down. Addressing what they say when I'm wearing my crown. They're chasing green candles like someone who was new. I got a vision that was bigger, helping me to push through. I'm still human and sometimes it is rough. And that's what makes me special, simply I stay tough. Cause I'm a rainmaker, investments I love. And I follow what I learn, not relying on luck.